beautiful peeps. And welcome to the Soberoso Xtra. Extra, read all about it. Okay, I won't quit my day job. Anyways, my name is Dora, and I am the host of the Soberoso podcast. And you have reached the Soberoso Extra. It is in addition to, it is on top of, it is behind the scenes, it is the after party. It is a deeper look and a deeper dive into my story and the stories of our guests. It is a bonus, and you are there now. So we are glad you found us, and welcome to the Soberoso Extra.
Hey, it happens.
There we go. How's it going, Matt?
I'm fantastic. How are you?
I am doing pretty freaking good myself. Can't complain.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So you are joining us today from Edmonton, Alberta. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes.
Awesome.
Have you been?
It's been a while. As a young kid, I was there to the West Edmonton Mall, which is probably the claim to fame. I think
it sure
I was
is.
There a little bit older as an adult to the fantasy hotel where you get to pick a room and a theme. And I think it was when you couldn't afford to go on a real vacation and get on a plane, right?
That's right. Yeah. All those theme rooms are still there. Let's think. The Roman room, Polynesian room. Oh yeah. They got all the classics. The funny thing is like that mall, I mean, it's starting to show its age, right? I mean, it is from whatever. I think it's around my birth year, 1981 or something. So,
okay.
There's been some expensive upgrades to maintain it, but at the end of the day, it's still, malls are, let's face it, a little bit of a thing of the past, or getting a little bit phased out. So, still cool though. I mean, it reminds me of one of those big cruise liners that's got like a golf course on it, and it's just like everything is kind of reminds me of one of those types of situations. But yeah, that's funny you've been there though. That's cool.
Yeah, and an indoor amusement park. I think they have one of the biggest roller coasters indoors, right?
That's right. You are. Yes, you remember. You remember all too. I must have had a good time. Apparently, had a lasting impression.
I came from a northern town, so small it was just a village on the border of BC and the Yukon. So Edmonton was a big city when I was there, and then
sure.
that was a big outing to go to that mall and
absolutely
do all that fun stuff. And it was Disneyland for a Canadian gal like me.
There we go. Yeah, I know that's funny you mentioned it. I've heard it compared to as such, and yeah, completely. Like when I was 10, I think I was 10 when I first went there, and same thing. I was just like, my eyes are as big as saucers, like you say, Fantasyland. Like the amusement park, the water slides. Did you get a chance to do the water? Oh,
yes, they have some great water slides.
Yes, I still go once a year. Like my fiance and I go there.
Nice.
It's still fun, right? The water slide that's like 90 degrees down, and you just takes about 2 seconds to get to the bottom of like a 7-story drop. It's good times.
And I think if I remember correctly, they also have one that's like a chute with a huge drop, like before you hit the water.
Yes.
And I remember watching my mom come down it, and she like dropped like there's this big empty space before you go down the slide and then drop into the pool, like free fall. And then it's like this round circular pool, and my mom was just like going around in circles, like in this little rapid eddy, and my mom was totally disoriented, and it was a pretty funny sight.
Right, you're like, that looks fun. Maybe I'll go do it now.
Mom, do it again. Let me see that again.
Right. We need the instant replay.
Right.
Yeah, too funny.
Well, anyways, Matt, we are not here just to talk about the Edmonton Mall or your Edmonton background, but I do know where you're coming from. So for anybody that's listening to us today, Matt Gardiner is joining us from Edmonton, and we are in the month of September. I know in BC, we celebrate the whole month for recovery. Do you guys do the same in Alberta?
Yeah, we do. Yeah, which is really cool. I think just because I've been getting into the Instagram sobriety community, which is fantastic, by the way, as I'm sure you're aware.
Oh yeah.
So that's very prominent, and it's coming up, and I don't know if I ever noticed it before as far as having a full month, but it's just amazing. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, September 30th is the actual like recovery day. So it ends with that, with a bang, so to speak, on September 30th, which is really cool. So yes, we do though. That's to answer your question.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
cool.
yes, I too am, big on Instagram. A lot of my guests come from Instagram, which we talk about a lot. This is how you and I, your and I pass, mine and yours pass.
Yes, both.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. This is how our paths crossed. And September is huge for recovery awareness, for addiction awareness, and for mental health awareness. And I'm really looking forward, actually next weekend here on September 10th, they are celebrating Recovery Day BC in New Westminster, where they're having a huge street party with like 150 vendors and 4 stages and some artists, hip hop. Tom Cochran's the headliner, family events, and it's all free. And it's going to be a first for me. So I'm really stoked to participate and see something, at this level of recovery in an outdoor, beautiful event.
Isn't that cool? Like man, it's come a long way even in the last like 3 or 5 years, like I'm thinking about my initial sobriety journey from like 10 years ago, and just knowing like how many resources, how much work has gone into just normalizing it and removing a lot of the shame from it, and now you're talking about this event, like that would have been pretty progressive even a few years ago for that to be like such a prominent thing. That's really cool, isn't it?
It is really cool. And actually this particular event, they're celebrating 10 years of doing this. So they have been doing it for 10 years. And I don't know if Tom Cochran is in recovery. I just assume he is, because they usually have, sober entertainers. And I know that in the beginning of the pandemic, they actually had to take the event online the first time, and Macklemore was their headliner for the whole event, and that was all seen from online, which was pretty cool. But
very cool.
So recovery is being celebrated big. It's being celebrated in Edmonton, in BC. I lived most of my life in Mexico, and it's just a fantastic thing to see, people like you and myself who are recovering out loud and talking about addiction and recovery out loud, and Matt, you have a podcast yourself. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
I do. And for all your audience, coming soon, I'm going to have you as a guest on my show as well. So, which is very cool. Loved it. Yes. Excited for that. So doing a little show swap action, you and I here. So it's Beyond Recovery. And it's been going on since I started it, I want to say very early April. So it was actually right as I was getting into my 3-year alcohol free. Awesome. So it just kind of went hand in hand that same week. I decided to start the podcast. I had been doing podcasting before, some music podcasts and other things of that nature. But basically what happened is I had quit my job of, 23 years and decided to go into sobriety coaching. And what had happened is up till that point, I was very secretive and guarded about that. I don't know. I had this perception that people would gossip, and I just felt it was very personal. So I held my alcohol-free choice pretty close to my chest. But then as soon as I quit that job and wanted to just come fully out with it, like you said, recovering out loud, it felt so much more, it was like a big relief for me, a big weight off, that I felt the need to have these 2 separate lives where they just kind of all came together. So a big part of that for me personally was getting that podcast going on. And it was so rewarding, as I'm sure it is for you, just having folks on to share those stories, when you go into like a recovery group or anything, just that to me, it was literally what changed and saved my life, was having the connection and having the ability to hear your story and other people's stories, vice versa, kind of compare notes. One of my favorite things about it has been, like I remember when I first go to a group, and I was so full of shame, right? And I would just kind of like, and like, almost like whisper this shameful memory. And then somebody be like, no, you know what? Don't even worry about that. That was my Tuesday morning. Like, and then we just have a good laugh. So all of a sudden the shame leaves my body in the form of laughter. And I'm like, oh my goodness, this is where I need to be. So that is essentially the idea of the podcast. Beyond Recovery for me is, okay, you're in recovery, and there's that initial, like, 30, 90 day stint where you're kind of learning to rediscovering things, redefining things. So what is after that point? What makes your life compelling after that point? And that's what the beyond recovery part is like, okay, let's go. Let's have some fun. Let's show that recovery, sobriety, alcohol free can be just as fun as what you perceived your life to be as quote unquote fun when
that's right. And we probably look 10 times better, right?
I guarantee we look 10 times better. Yes. So yeah, that's the podcast. That's the origin of it. Yeah. Having a lot of fun with it. So
awesome, Matt. Well, I love that. And, as a fellow podcaster around the same niche as recovery, I too have found the podcasting journey myself to be so liberating. Not only am I helping other people by sharing other people's stories, but for my own story, I've been forced getting into the podcasting to own my story and open up even more, in the recovery community, and where I recovered in the 12-step programs. You go into a meeting and you get, if you're lucky, you can share for 5 minutes, but I always wanted more, I wanted to hear that full story. So the podcasting has really allowed me to hear people's full stories and then go into the crosstalk, dig deeper, tell me more about that, that. I have a curious mind, and I believe that, by us and other people sharing their stories, that we can recover together, and we do recover together. And anybody that's listening out there can realize that, you're not alone. There are many of us out there who've gotten to the other side of addiction and alcoholism, and we do recover. And if you're sitting on that fence, that could be you too.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well put. And 100% accurate for as far as getting my story out there, feeling comfortable about doing it, normalizing it, if you will. And then it also has led me to have this extra layer of accountability that I didn't see coming. And then as soon as I'm like, okay, now I'm like the sober guy, you know what I mean? So I put myself out there. So I'm like, ooh, okay, interesting. I wasn't necessarily, I don't know how I didn't see that, but as soon as I started putting myself out there, I'm like, oh wow, I'm all in it now, whereas before I felt like I was leaving the door open just a crack, right?
Which, that's right.
So now it's like, nope, all in.
You're all in, and you're invested by, producing a podcast around this, having these accounts. So like you said, it's another layer of accountability, or as I've heard it called, an insurance policy.
Yeah, I love that. I'm gonna borrow that. I'm gonna borrow that. I like that.
I can't even if a drink or drug crosses my mind, which it seldom does, it still creeps into my dreams way too often. But in my conscious and sober waking moments, I don't think about it. But if I did, that you're right, that accountability of, now I'm sharing about recovery, and I have nightmares actually about drinking and waking up going, oh my God, how am I going to tell my podcast audience?
Right? There you go. And that's important.
So I get it. So that's protection for us. So that's awesome. Yeah. So as far as stories go, Matt, I would love to hear a little bit. Thank you all for being here with us today and joining us in sharing our passion for recovery. Don't forget to check back regularly for the Soberoso Xtra.